Greetings, everyone, or as they say in Botswana's language of Swana, Ditu Misido, and welcome back to Safari Mack Returns to Africa. I'm Safari Mack, your guide and host, helping you make connections to the wild. That's right, folks. I am back, and if you managed to catch my last week's episode, we are back in the continent of Africa for a continent-long safari. And today, we're going to start off our safari in this area, in southern Africa's Kalahari Desert, where we're going to meet up with one of the smartest animals known in to roam the continent, the honey badger, also known as the ray-tail, or if you want to know them by their Latin name, simply Mellivora capensis. But before we begin, as always, if you're brand new to my channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Check out my Facebook page for content on conservation. And if you have a question or if there's an animal that you want me to do in the future, you just have to send me an email, which you will always find the link to down in the description below. But if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's get to it. For starters, though, we're not going to go too deep into the evolution of this creature, or at least in its family, because it's their family is well known, and we've uncovered a few already, including river otters and sea otters, the American badger, even the wolverine. If you're an avid fan, and if you've seen my episodes, then we probably already know this animal's family already, the Mustelidae family, which obviously includes weasels, mongooses, wolverines, badgers, you name it. But so if you want to learn about the evolution of these guys, you can do that by checking out these episodes and then coming back to the honey badger. Now, the honey badger, though, is fairly special. It really, really is special. In fact, it is the only member. This creature is considered to be the only member of its own genus, which is Mellivora. Now, the honey badger what makes them different from all the other mustelids is a lot to do with how they appear, and of course their behaviors. As we know, they are fearless, they are wicked smart, they have many different features to help them survive, including loose and tough skin, as well as having a high resistance to venom. And of course, as we know, these tenacious animals are even known to be able to stand on their own against larger predators such as leopards or even lions. But we'll get into that a little later. Let's go into their habitat, their lifestyle, and family life. Now, of course, we know these guys in Africa, but did you know you can also find them in parts of the Middle East as well as all across the land of India? That's right. Wherever you can find rainforest, open savanna, desert regions like here in the Kalahari, even the mountain ranges, these guys are adaptable and can survive in a number of settings and surroundings. As we know, they're able to make the most of every resource available, and as always, as we probably know, the video Honey Badger Don't Care, these guys really can stand up on their own They really can stand on their own feet. They're not going to let anything push them around, not even lions. In fact, even hyenas would probably be better off keeping their distance from these guys because, like I said, they are tenacious. But how so? We'll find out a little bit more later on. Now, in general, honey badgers live a completely solitary lifestyle. However, it has been reported by biologists that they have been seen hunting together in pairs. And that's okay. I mean, teamwork does help, but they're not going to be doing this all the time. They're more of a solitary animal that's looking for their meals or figuring out how to work around their landscape. Now, when it comes to breeding, these guys don't really have a specific breeding time, so it's not during the wet season or the dry season. They just do it whenever they are able to. But when they do become pregnant, mom usually has a pregnancy of around 50 to 70 days before she gives birth to usually a single cub. or in this case, a pup. And only mom is the caregiver. Dad's not involved. So for the first 14 months, this little pup stays with its mom, and then over the course of 2 years starts to learn all the necessary survival skills that it needs to become independent. Now, of course, when I'm talking about learning all their skills and of course their adaptabilities, these guys really do take the cake. I mean, they have a good resistance to venom, fairly strong jaws, sharp claws, and they can emit some of the foulest smelling odor that you would never want to smell, even worse than a skunk. And they also have, as we know, they have intelligence. And when I say intelligence, I mean problem-solving intelligence. And we're going to look at that a little bit more into next week. Now let's go into their lifestyle. Now, we know that, now you're probably thinking, as the name honey badger it applies, you think that they're solely going in to eat honey, right? Nope. If anything, they're not really just after honey, they're also after the bees, as well as the bee larvae, or the baby bees. I know it's sad, but this is part of the circle of life. This is just how nature is. But they're not just limited to honeybee larvae and honey alone. In fact, if you really want me to be honest, in terms of the Mustelidae family, the weasels, the badgers, all of those guys, these guys are considered to be the least specialized of all of its cousins. These guys can eat almost anything, from insects, scorpions, carrion, some vegetation. They're even known to eat, they even have really strong stomachs to be able to handle some of the worst things that you would probably not want to see, such as rot or from a carcass, or even rotten fruit. In fact, some scientists have actually even seen honey badgers actually to become seemingly intoxicated from eating overripe fruit. Can you believe that? So in a way, these guys can even get themselves drunk. Finally, we're going to end today's episode with, of course, their influence in the human culture. Now, as we know, the honey badger has been seen basically as honey badger don't care, especially in the 2011 famous video "Honey Badger Don't Care" refrain. Now, of course, while they are often not considered to be a welcome friend, especially among honey farmers or beekeepers that live in the region, they usually do have a good place in some traditional African folklore with regards to their bravery and even their tough skin, which they are often sought after. Even Disney has been able to take its turn with making honey badgers famous by creating their character from Disney Junior show The Lion Guard, the character named Bunga. Now, I'm afraid that's all for today's episode, but until next week with part 2, this is Safari Mack, and I'll see you all out there.